there we go. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with something that is actually quite difficult to. This is a group of TPOs that are quite difficult to find, and I started by seed collection from one of our colleagues who sold me his collection, and I've been looking for more ever since, and I've managed to get a few more, but there's still gaps. The main source of reference is Firebrace, of course. So, as an introduction, the Egyptian expeditionary force was started. You're talking about the time of 1915, 1916 during the First World War. And during that period, in March 1915, the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force was assembled to support the war effort in that region. And the postal service was extended, of course, because you throw the force, you need postal. And two base post office, which was randomly designated as Y for the Dardanelles and Z for Alexandria. We don't know where those letters come from, but that's what is used. As you'll see in some, the Z will be clear in some of the material that's going to show. But the Egyptian Expeditionary Force was created in March 16 out of the remnants of that expeditionary force. And this was evacuated from Gallipoli, which was a disaster, as I'm sure many of you know. It was initially tasked for the protection of the Egyptian frontiers and the Suez Canal, which, of course, was a vital waterway. And from this inception, it was a multi-ethnic, multinational British imperial formation, and its troops came from all over the world, British Isles, predominantly, for example, territorial soldiers from India, Australia, New Zealand, and the West Indies. And that's a nice picture of an Australian camp forces in camping right next to the pyramid around World War I. So what are the traveling as you've got a post office and you've got moving forces all the time, you need traveling post offices. And I divided them into the western frontier, which doesn't show on this particular map. And there's the Cairo. Can you see my arrow moving, please?
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. And there's the Cairo, the one within Egypt. And there's one further down south, which is Upper Egypt, which I've never seen on cover yet. But also there's this fascinating bit there. As the forces moved and pushing the Turkish forces back in 1916, 1917, the railhead moved forwards. And as the railhead moved forwards, different traveling post offices appeared. So I'm just going to start by looking at the Western Desert, which had nothing to do with World War at all. It was essentially required to support the Western frontiers, supplying the Senussi. The Senussi were the kings of Libya at the time, the dynasty king of Libya, which were overtaken finally by Muammar Gaddafi a long time ago. They withdrew east to Marsa Matruh and used El Daba station, which is here, further east, supply the troops in Libya. And the Senussi campaign was interesting because it took place in North Africa from 1915, 1917, coinciding with the TPO usage dates. The campaign was fought by the Kingdom of Italy, which was the main occupying force in Libya, and the British Empire against Senussi. Senussi were courted by the Ottoman Empire and the German Empire in the summer of 15. And the Ottoman persuaded the Grand Senussi to declare jihad, and jihad is not a new word, against the British occupied Egypt and encourage insurrection in Egypt, divert the British forces. So they're actually trying to indirectly push the British from fighting the Turks and the Ottoman Empire on the right or on the east to the west. So the TPO, This is the first TPO I've got, which is Z and W TPO. And as I mentioned, Z represents Alexandria. W is probably El Dawa or Marsa Matruh. Z represents the base army post in Alexandria, and W is in the field post office in the Western Frontier Force. And that's why it says field service post office. And these are not rare. These are not difficult to find. There are several of them. And the postal rates on the 24th of May, an arrangement came into effect with the Egyptian Post Office whereby free postage was provided for the British servicemen of the Egyptian Expeditionary Force and the Egyptian Postal Service. So this is my first cover there, which is a field service postcard labeled Z and W, 15th of January, 1916. And it's going to Leeds in London.
Mhm.
It's not very clear, I'm afraid, but it is Leeds here, honestly. There was a sticker here that's been removed. I don't know what that is. More of those, and this is a registered one. Now, the postal rate was free for regular ones, and as you can see, the one below says on active service and passed by censor. And there is very faint here a sign of the, usually that's called an honor letter, or the commanding officer signing that letter, meaning that it is an official letter, which is Z and W for free postage. However, if it's a registered letter, you've got to pay for it. And note fee pay hand stamp on bottom left here. Where my sense there. You can see it says fee paid here. You got the regular passed by censor, registered marking, Army Post Office here, and Z&W, which is the traveling post office. And the transit time is 13 days, which is unusual to get transit time on this TPO route, as the majority have exclusively TPO cancellations, such as this one. But the registered letters that gets more cancellations because it's paid for, and it's more interesting if you like. And you can see here the signature on the bottom one, H.R. Chester, which may be the sender, alternatively the signature of the commanding officer certifying on active service, free postage. And such signature was a requirement, although absent in quite a lot of the covers seen. So if you look at this one, I couldn't see one on either side. I mean, anybody got questions, please interrupt and ask. Don't worry about it. More Z and W here. And there are two basic types, a type with A and a type with B. The significance of them, I do not know. But of interest is the absence of passed by censor hand stamp in this one here, both sides. OAS in active service, and you can see here, as you the signature of the commanding officer certifying that it's free. And this one is made to Bungay in Suffolk. I don't know where Bungay is in Suffolk. Never heard of it. Does anybody know where Bungay is? I should have looked it up. And you've got the passed by censor stamp, and there is no signature here of the commanding officer, but it does say on active service. So two types, A and B. And again, dated 16th and 1916, 1917. So now we move from the Western Desert to the traveling post offices within Egypt. And this is the commonest one that I'm going to show you, which is the cat. The cat is Cairo. A is a transit mark, and T is the one indicating Port Said. Why T? I have yet to find out. I've been researching it, and if anybody knows, I'd be extremely grateful if they could let me know. So this is postal mailed to Somerset, dated 1917, and as the only cancellation. So we've got no evidence of it being received or transit mark. Same one here, But here, and you can see here, again, if you look carefully, right there and right there is the signature of the commanding officer. In fact, there are two signatures. This one here and one there. So the outgoing, clearly, the cat is from Cairo to Port Said. As I've shown you in previous presentations, in the traveling post offices of Egypt in general, if you find Cairo, Alexandria, for example, it does not always mean that it is traveling from Cairo to Alexandria. It could be moving from Alexandria to Cairo. And to tell the difference, you need to find the train numbers, which will tell you which one direction. In these military ones, the order always tells you the direction. So CAT means Cairo to Port Said, always, because there is the reverse which tells you that. And there's another one here, and they've got two type 1. I apologize, the arrows moved. One has the X and one without the X. Again, the relevance is unknown, but sorry? Anybody? Okay. And this moved post to England, March 1917, passed by censor number, and commanding officer signed date, which is Mr. J. A. Gale, which is on the, you can just see it there. And then here, again, you can see the signature of the commanding officer here. And of course, it goes to Port Said and via steamer. Now we come to the two registered letters. And this is the CAT one, which is again from Cairo to Port Said. It's prepaid from the base army post office. On Versa is base army post office cancellation Z, which means Alexandria. If you remember from Z and W previous one, Z was Alexandria. So if you find an army base post office with Z on it, it's always Alexandria. And there's a very good book by Proud which tells you all about them. And there's also a civilian Alexandria cancellation, also dated 28th on the other side. That's the base post office there. Because again, it is a registered letter and therefore it has to be paid for. And these are two, it's interesting, these are two identical registered stationery letters to the same addressee in Alexandria. The expected TPO would be TAC, which is namely from Port Said to Cairo onwards. So these are coming from the UK. These are registered, and you can see there's two pence here. So this is coming from the UK to Egypt. I should have said that at the beginning. So this one goes. So this one goes to CAT, which means it has arrived to Port Said and went all the way down to Alexandria. It's Alexandria in Egypt. But the expected TPO, this one has got TAC, which is the reverse one, which is unusual, which is not as common. But if it had arrived to Alexandria by steamer, why would it have a traveling post office? So I think this is an incorrect directional TPO of CAT, because there are other registered things that you'll see later on, which are TAC means going into Port Said. And TAC direction to Port Said to Cairo is here, and these are two more examples. This one has the X variation, signature, and signature. It is uncommon to find two distinct passed by censor hand stamps in this one. We usually find one or two, and these are actually two different ones. If you look at the number, it's not the same one that was used twice. So this is 3151 and this 3478. And the probable explanation is that one was at point of origin as the letter was handled by the Egyptian mail and was probably another requirement for a second censor stamp. That's a guess. I'm guessing here. And this is an active service pre-printed every, and you can see the authorizing one there. Now we start moving a bit further away. This is, again, an incoming one. You can see this is registered from the UK. And it's SAT. And I'll tell you what it means. It's from Suez to Port Said Road. Now, if you remember, the C was Cairo, T was Port Said. SAT is S for Suez, T for Port Said. So posted August the 16th, 1916, and primary cancellations to Field Post Office 162. And there's a base post office here, which is the Z. You can see it there. The Z, that's always Alexandria. And you've got this regular censor hand stamp there. So I've got two military notes here, which I like to look at the field post office to see who was there at the field post office, which regiment was involved. And field officer of post office 162 was attached to the 54th Infantry Division, which is the East Anglian 1960s 2nd Brigade, and they were stationed in the Suez Canal region from 2nd of April, 22nd of November 1916. So that fits very, very well and nicely with the cancellation of this letter, which is coming as an incoming letter this way. And as the brigade was stationed in the Suez Canal area with no direct train from Suez to Cairo, you remember historically, the very first train started from Cairo to Suez. And later that was actually cancelled, and the connection to the Suez Canal was from Cairo to Ismailia to Port Said, and the direct line in the 18th and 19th, early 19th century between Cairo and Suez was removed or stopped. So as the brigade was stationed in the Suez Canal area with no direct train from Suez to Cairo, the latter had to travel north towards Port Said and then had two options: a train from Ismailia to Cairo, then Alexandria, or alternatively traveling further to Port Said and catch a steamer to Alexandria. Now we go to another one, which is the RAC, which is from Kantara to Rafah. Kantara is the railway station roughly near Ismailia. I think, Mike, you've been there recently.
Indeed.
Yeah. And this goes with the point I was trying to tell you earlier on, that as the British army moved more and more east and pushed the Turkish army further, or the Ottoman Empire army further and further back, the railhead moved forwards and they laid more train tracks to service the army and the military. And as the rail track moved forwards, they then installed more and more field post offices and traveling post offices, which was essentially a mobile structure. So again, this is an incoming letter. It comes from the UK with a registered letter with 2 pence here. And cancelled Z Alexandria. So it has arrived first. You can see that the cancel is upside down, but cancelled Z that has arrived to Alexandria first. And that's the base post office there, base military post office. And then you got the pass by censor as usual, hand stamp number. And the authorizing officer's signature, as you can see. And just at the bottom left corner, you can see fee paid, which tells you that this is a registered letter and it's been appropriately covered. And the field post, and again, I like to put those military notes because it just puts a little life into who is receiving this letter. And this field post office D74, from which, and this field post office, because field post office is different. A base post office is fixed. A field post office moves. And the field office from May 17 to April 18 served the 74th Infantry Division, which was stationed in the Gaza area near Deir el-Balah, which tells you why. And Rafah is very close, is at the Gaza-Egyptian border. So that fits very well with the cancellation and the traveling post office. And this TPO reflects the true direction of travel, the start of the journey at R, which is Rafah on the Gaza-Egyptian border, and the nearest railway station to the true position north of Gaza. The letter next traveled to K to Kantara in the Suez Canal, onwards to Alexandria via the state railway system, because this letter was addressed to Alexandria. And this is actually a new variant because usually field post offices are just, this is a minor thing. This field office D74, which I mentioned, and it's got an A here instead of an X, which proud describes A only, minor. And again, another one from Kantara, Iraq. These are quite rare, and in Firebrace shows 7 known copies, and I've got a few of those, but not all of them. I wish I did. Anybody wants to sell me his, I'll be very happy to buy them. So these are the type in Firebrace. And this is a red again. It's an incoming one. It was mailed from the United Kingdom, from the UK. Tuppence here, and this one is to photo stores at Ramla in Alexandria. Registered with a registered mark, fee paid in the corner, signature of the officer, and the 2 cancellation for censorship. And the field post office D42, which is down here, you can just see it, serves the East Lancashire Division. And in the early August 1916, they were involved in the Battle of Romani in Sinai, where the Turkish units were pushed back with heavy losses. And Romani was an important victory. From there, the British forces pushed a railway and water line across the Sinai Desert, enabling an assault with the intention of clearing Palestine. The East Lancashire were involved as advance guards as the train line building moved forwards as far as El Arish at the time, and the division was ordered to the Western Front after that by the end of February 17. So it fits very well with the fact that this is January 17. A month later, that division went away somewhere else in the Western Front, into the trenches, I'm afraid. I think they would have probably preferred to be in the desert of Sinai than stuck in the trenches in World War II, World War I. And now Kantara to Rafah here, which is Iraq. And this is a registered stationary post office. Again, this is the verso, the back, and you can see it has been registered and paid for in the United Kingdom, and it says registered letter on top, censor mark here. And this registered prepaid letter with via the March 17, and primary cancellation is Field Post Office MI. And that served the Camel Corps Brigade stationed in the Gaza region at the time of posting. And there's a nice little picture here of the Camel Corps, which I managed to find. And just a little note about the Imperial Camel Corps Brigade was a camel-mounted infantry brigade the British Empire raised in December 1916 during the First World War for service in the Middle East. From a small beginning, the unit eventually grew to a brigade of 4 battalions, 1 battalion each from Great Britain and New Zealand, and 2 battalions from Australia. Support troops including mountain artillery battery, machine gun squadron, Royal Engineers, and a field ambulance and administrative train. And it became part of the Egyptian Expeditionary Force and fought in several battles and engagements in the Senussi campaign, which is, of course, to the west rather than here, and also in the Sinai and Palestine campaign and in the Arab Revolt. And it was disbanded in 1919. It's the first time I actually realized there was a Camel Corps. So I find these very historically educational, if you like. So this is a LAC now, which is Kantara and Lud Road. Now Lud is now part of current Israel, and it's the Lud airport is very famous at the time. So this tells you that the railhead has moved forward. And if you look at the date, it's October 17. It's further down, it's later than the previous ones, and it's towards the end of nearing the end of the First World War. In contrast to the registered mail, postcards and standard letters have only the TPO postmark, which I mentioned before. And although the railhead arrives at Lud 18th of January 18, the TPO preceded that. TPOs instituted in anticipation of the railhead advancement. I found that very interesting because we know from the documentation railhead reached the date it reached, which is the 18th of January 1918, but the TPO is actually before that. So the British, I think, we were very optimistic, expecting to win, and therefore they arranged the TPO before the train reached the thing, unless something's in it. And this is again another one, which is the Kantara Lud Road. And there are different types. I've just marked the names of the types. I won't go into those. Again, this is an incoming one, again, coming from the UK. And it's got the Army Post Office, which SZ1, and I'll mention S7, actually, not 1. Its primary cancellation is here. Where's the primary? Is the Army Post Office SZ. This is the primary cancellation because it's over the registration mark. So one would expect, and the registration stamp was put at the time of posting. So I would think it's reasonable to assume this is a primary cancellation. And you got again the military note. Army Post Office SZ7 was functional in Sinai and Palestine. And as it was not linked to a specific division of brigade, it served as a focal point to the nearest military unit. And that's quite interesting because essentially it means that you've got a post office that is mobile and moving all the time. And it moves as the military advances, the post officers moves with them. And this very unusual stamp here or cancellation there is the Indian Expeditionary Force 49th Brigade was in the Second Battle of Gaza to support the 54th Division. So this is actually shows you that. I am not sure what that star indicates. If anybody's got a comment on it, I'd be very grateful. But what does that star cancellation indicate? I don't know.
Sami, we've seen 3 or 4 of those as we've moved through. I always understood it was some sort of censorship marking, but I don't know who imposed it.
Okay.
Any
thoughts?
Could it be an inspector's mark? Because they have those in GB.
All right. Okay. Inspector. That should be interesting. Yes. So this is my last one, which is Kantara to Haifa. So it's actually in, and this is in a bit later on. It's February 23, but it's not recorded. So I thought it'd be interesting to present it. It's a letter with enclosure posted from the UK, January 23, and addressed to the squadron leader in Bir Salem in Palestine. And it's got the Kantara Haifa. It's actually quite a poor one. I had to enhance it slightly. Kantara Haifa TPO marking. And the letter would travel from Broughton Castle by train to the British seaport, where a steamer would transport it probably to Port Said, and then south via rail link to Kantara. Kantara, if you remember, is halfway down the Suez Canal, where at the start of the trade line across Sinai to Haifa.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please.
Kantara, was that not also where the Camel Corps was staying for a while during the First World War?
Yes, I think you mentioned that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Camel Mounted Corps. It was in Kantara Rafah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well spotted. Thank you. Yeah, Kantara is. I mean, the Arabic word for Kantara is like a bridge, and it's. There was quite a lot. Kantara was heavily involved in the 1973 war at the time.
Een bond.
So I finished this presentation.
Wow.
So let me, how can I get out of this? There we go.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
A lot of these, several of these letters seem to be sent to photographic destinations, like Kodak or the what? Do you have any idea what those were and why? You know what were they sending?
That's a very good question. I thought about it, and if it was from Egypt to the UK, I would understand that they want something developed, or are they paying a bill for the photography done by the military? That's that's pure speculation. But that's a very good point. I've noticed that there are quite a lot, about 4 or 5 of them aren't the photographic ones.
But
And
that is the problem. The problem with this issue is, of course, that maybe by coincidence, those were kept by Kodak, while millions of other letters were just thrown away. So to conclude anything is hard, isn't it?
Yes, and as I said, they are actually quite difficult to find. I found 1 or 2 from a website which is called War Covers. I don't know if anybody is familiar with them, but
Oh,
they've got it.
by the way, can you take your share screen out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on. Unshare. How I don't know how. I'm just going to start another presentation, but can you see me?
Okay,
All
sorry.
right.
No. Sorry, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So keep it.
Any other questions? Any comments or?
Oh, this was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Thank you.
Has anyone got any of those? If you look in your collection and find some, please let me know. I'd be very happy. Either even scans. So, because I'm conscious of the time, I've got 2 potential presentations. One is, I think I'll go through this. One is an unusual one because I would like comments on it. So let me start here. And slideshow, where's the slideshow here? Slideshow, start from the beginning.
I mean, I have an engagement here, but I want to thank you. This was a very, very interesting presentation. So many thanks.
It's my pleasure. I'm delighted you liked it. Thank you. So this is, to me, I call it an enigma, because if you recall, a traveling post office by definition travels from A to B, and therefore you need at least 2 cities, and sometimes you have more than 2 cities, you have 3. However, there is a subgroup of, which is this one, where you have only 1 city only, exclusively. So are they traveling post offices? Yes, because it says so on the actual cancellation. So you can see it in Cairo, TPO, 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 TPO there, and so forth. And Smith records them, or at least some of them. And he says they are transit TPOs, and that's actually partially true. But sometimes they are from the origin, and sometimes are they from the recipient point. So I found up to now 7 cities with single transit TPOs. And as I said, they are evidence because there are two TPOs, because there's a clear TPO presentation and the presence of a train number after the date. So if you got a train number, you don't get normally train numbers after routine cancellations in Egypt. So you get train numbers almost exclusively in traveling post offices. So this is the first one here, which is Cairo, and it's TPO 24. And TPO 24 actually is the train number. So it doesn't have a train number after the date, as you can see, because it says it's 24 and it's train number 2024. So this is an official governmental one, and this is one of the things that interests me, and I'm got a few of those that I need to collect and make them into a presentation, because I don't think anybody has actually submitted a presentation on the official free governmental mail. And as you can see, this is the oval. It's a classical oval, and usually they're horrible. You can hardly read them. But this is very nice. It's got Bilas, and which is a city, and I cannot read the rest of it. And it is a governmental letter to Cairo from Bilas via another TPO. Actually, it's got two TPO from Kalin and Sherbin, and that's in the middle central delta, and a single transit. So that's Cairo 24. And there's another one here, another Cairo 24. They're different types, and this is 5C 1.1. I won't go into the types. This is just sort of more of semantics here. And letter from Sherbin, again, to Al-Azhar Islamic Center via Cairo TPO at 7:30 p.m., franked with 5 mil stamps. Local letter arriving the next day, and that arrives the next day very clearly here. This is the origin, and this is the arriving. It's upside down, but that says Al-Azhar.
Does it mean that the envelope therefore did not go to the central post office in Cairo?
It should, but there's no cancellation. There's Sherbin here. There's the traveling post office, which means it took the train from Alexandria. The train number 24 is an express train from Alexandria to Cairo. And this is the Al-Azhar one. Theoretically, it should have stopped somewhere in Cairo and then gone to Al-Azhar, but goes straight to Al-Azhar here. There's no cancel. This is the whole envelope there.
Is there any proof that this would possibly be to make sure that the envelope would be handled quicker?
The single transit one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It shouldn't, because it just goes through this routine system. I mean, I've got lots of Cairo, Alexandria with train number 24 on it. And essentially it's an express train which has a regular. So if it goes on that train, Sherbin is in the central delta, and therefore it has to move where the Alexandria to Cairo main state railway comes. So it has to link with that. Now, normally it would link with that, and we've got loads of those. It would say Cairo, Alexandria, or Alexandria, Cairo, and then the train number, the date, and the train number T24. That's routine.
Yeah.
But that's why I say I don't understand why it's only Cairo, TPO 24. And I don't think it's any faster, to be honest, but I don't know that for sure. And there's another one here. That's quite nice, because you get, it's another governmental one. It's got the official governmental seal here, and folded letter from the mixed tribunal in Alexandria to Cairo via Cairo 24 single transit, TPO arriving the same day. And you also have the nice mixed tribunal. Again, it's poor quality. You got a nice Alexandria first CDS to depart. So the letter was cancelled at Alexandria at 2 p.m. and the State Railway Express train T24 departs Alexandria 3:30, an hour and a half later, arriving Cairo 6:15 and cancelled in Cairo at 7:30. I wish we are as good as that now.
Sami, if the train left at 3:30, why is the TPO timed at 7:30?
No, that's a good question. I don't know that answer. That's an excellent question. I don't know the answer to that. Or maybe that's the arrival, but it says TPO. That's very. I don't know that. That's a very good question. Why is there's a major discrepancy here between, I know from the timetables, and I've got the 1925 timetable, it arrives Cairo 6:15 p.m., but it's cancelled 7:30 by that TPO. Why? I don't know. That's a very good point. Thank you. I'll actually need to change that slightly as another enigma.
But that would almost suggest that it was not handled in the train itself.
Yes, but why would it say TPO then? I know what you're saying, but I mean, by definition, a traveling post office should be either on a train or a boat.
Would the train just be late?
Yes.
No, never, never.
And the TPOs were not done in trams in Cairo, huh?
No,
No.
just trains.
No.
Because it has to have a number, usually. The vast majority have numbers, unless they are very late 18th century, in which there were actually Roman numerals at the end, rather than numbers. Presumably they were shifts. But after that, and the beauty of it is that you have books like that. I don't know if can you see it all right? And it's got all the train timetables. And you can actually tell exactly when the train left and when it arrived. I mean, I've just said, Mike, for the QC, the first, you can either have one TPO, two TPO, three TPOs, but I finally found one in 1909, which has 4 TPOs on it. And it traveled on 4 trains and arrived the next day. That's how efficient the system was in 1909. So this is another one here, which is a new, just I put it there because it's got a nice new early date for that particular type, which is small size CDS, which is dimension there. And it's got Arabic Al-Qahira instead of, if you look once before, the other one is which is Cairo.
Yeah.
And it's from Dumyat to Cairo via Cairo, arriving the same day, and franked with 3 medals on the other side.
Sorry, what does it say in Arabic under Al-Qahira?
Al-Qahira, that's Arabic. Saira 24 means TPO 24
Okay.
Cairo.
Saira.
I know many envelopes with this with a similar word and with the letter T on it. But that's
letter what?
unrelated. Sorry?
Sorry,
The letter what on it?
T, the T. And it's for transport, or what is it?
Yeah. This is a TPO, which is traveling post office. But T, normally you would have a T here, which is the train number instead of the date. But because they've put 24 there, that's the train number.
Sami, is there any significance in the E bit at the bottom of the CDS?
Don't know.
The other TPO 24s you've shown us are also E's.
Some of them, yes, that's a long, before that's an E, and there's another E here.
Yeah.
This has double E's.
Is it double E?
I think so. Or a very long E, which is not very clear.
Yeah.
One or the other. You can see it here. It looks like a double E, but it may not be. I've only got one copy of that. See, this one is quite a long E. This one could be long E rather than double E.
In Arabic, they said بالعكس, so maybe that's why E is one way and 2 is the 2 ways.
Yes, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. بالعكس is when you see the TPOs, for example, Cairo, Alexandria in English and VV or vice versa, the Arabic says the interpretation is بالعكس. Exactly right. Thank you.
In looking at other postmarks, Sami, I have occasionally seen that the E is used for the information office, renseignement, for Alexandria E, Cairo E, etc. Just no more than that. And I wondered if that might be significant somehow.
I'm not sure what you mean by information office. Can you tell me?
No, not really. It's when you go to buy a ticket for the Postal Museum,
yes,
you get a hand stamp with Cairo E.
Oh, I see.
So it's Cairo. It's the Cairo Information Office downstairs.
Oh, right.
I've seen other E's for Alexandria and other cities as well. I honestly don't know what it means. There's no Arabic for that E there, is there?
No, it's just Sarah 24. I've seen the more.
Yeah.
It's only in the English version. I agree.
Don't know what it means.
And there's another one here. It's just got new late dates. Another E there for you.
Another E, yeah.
Yes. And this is I said this is quite interesting because this has got the actual train time, the arrival time here.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
So now we're going to move to Alexandria, and this is Alexandria TPO. And if you look at difference here, it doesn't give you the train number on the English and Arabic. It gives you the actual train number after the date. So this train number is 263 here. So the letter place called Metobus to Cairo via Alexandria single transit. And it's cancelled at Metobus, which is that down here. And that's the primary cancellation at between 12 and 1 p.m. Sometimes they give you a range. And train departs at Fina, which is south of Alexandria, at 13:15. So it's 50 minutes after the time. Arriving Alexandria at 17:35 in time to link up with trains to Cairo. So if you look at the map here, the diagram, it starts at Edfina in Metobus, goes to Edfina, then goes to Alexandria, and then links to Cairo, because that is addressed to Cairo.
Sami, can I ask about the very top line of Arabic? Does that say Saira Mas?
Saira, yes. Alexandria Saira. Saira. Saira.
The Arabic.
This one here.
No. The Arabic handwriting on the front of the cover.
That says Shobra Masr.
Shobra. Okay,
Shobra.
Sorry.
Yeah, Shobra.
Not Saira.
Yeah, my grandfather used to live in Shobra.
Okay.
Very busy part of Cairo. Yes. So again, it's interesting because it shows you how a train it has to go all the way to that way to link up. And the train, it's interesting because although it's going from Alexandria to Cairo, train T263 is actually is on that route, not on this route. And that's the beauty of the timetables, because you can find the train number and know exactly where it's coming from and where it's going to. It's become one of my hobbies to find a complex letter with multiple cancellations and trying to find out what the actual route did that letter take. It's totally useless, but it's quite a lot of fun. And there's another one, which is Sarah Alexandria. Now, this is a new one, which I've just found. And I've actually sent it to Mike for publishing the QA as a question. It's got a lot of problems and a lot of questions in it. It's an unusual new type variant. It's got two primary cancellations here, which I've tried to clean a bit without adding anything. So, for example, this is probably NVV, but it's not clear, so I didn't add it. So this is a letter posted from Cairo to Alexandria. It's in 1951. It has to be 1951 because that stamp was published in 16th of January 1951. However, the cancellation is very, very clear. It's 21, not 51. So I think there's a wrong cancellation. And it's franked with the expected Faroe overprint 10 mils, covering local letter rate, which is fine. There's only one cancellation, so I can't tell you the transit time. So the date of the cancellation is incorrect. It should be 1951, not 21, because the overprinted stamp was issued on the 16th of January 51. And on the other side, which I didn't scan, there's an Arabic handwritten, which is 17/12/51. So there are no train number designation. We know it's a traveling post office because there's an Arabic Saira here and almost certainly and vice versa there. It's incorrect. And the actual spelling of Alexandria is wrong. There's a missing E. So is this a forgery? And why would somebody forge a TPO? I mean, it's not very...
Yeah, I think it's forgery. There is a lot of mistakes in it.
I agree. I mean, that's why I put it possible forgery.
Exactly. It's well, someone who don't want to put the 10 millimeters at the time.
But the 10 millimeters are already there.
Yeah.
It's a very unusual one, but I thought it's worth presenting because the letter the stamp is correct, and it's the correct price, and there's a date on the back which says 17/12/51, 1951, which is obviously maybe the date the person got it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I think Mike is going to put it on the QC for questions, and maybe somebody can have a comment on it. So now we move to the next city, which is the Fayoum, which is I'm going as the very common are the Cairo, less common are Alexandria, and as we move further in the presentation, they're less and less common. So this is a classical Fayoum Sayra TPO, and puts it to Cairo 1929 with TPO as the primary cancellation, proper franking, and I can't tell you this. It's smudged here. I can't tell you the arrival date, but the train number is very clear. T141 is the state railway servicing the Wasta Fayoum Abuxa line, and this is going from west to east or east to west. Wasta is on the main railway line between Cairo and Luxor, and it's a very important stop. And then it would go to Wasta and would link to Cairo from there, because this is going to Cairo. And that's the Fayoum TPO on the back side. There are two of them here. This is the other one here, just to say that I've got two copies of those. And this one's got a slightly new early date. And again, this one is posted from a place called Sinro, which is Sinro is a main stop on the Wasta Fayoum Abuxa line, and it's serviced by train 147. So this is train 141 there, train 147, and it's cancelled Sinro 3 to 4 p.m., picked up by the train just over an hour later, and arriving at Fayoum at 6:40. And then from there onwards, it will move on to Wasta and then to Cairo. This is a Tanta one, and these are becoming quite uncommon, really. This is it's very difficult to find these, and that's why I tried to map the route in this one. And this is stationary postcard on the other side from Bilas to Alexandria with a single transit Tanta TPO, and missing part of the date. But so the letter is time-stamped because at 6:28 p.m. Then goes to Sherbin, and then you've got here the train number. So it's very easy to tell you that he is on the train TPO. So arrives at 6:28 p.m., arrives from Sherbin at 6:50, departs 6:58, goes to Mansoura, Tanta, and then to Alexandria, and that's the cancellations there. And another one to Tanta, and as you can see, it's quite a poor cancellation, but I said they're quite rare and very difficult to find. And from Tanta TPO primary cancellation in 1951, seems as we go further away from the early part of the 20th century towards from the revolution onwards, the quality of the franking, as I'm sure you all know, gets worse and worse and worse. So this is as much as I could clear it. I don't like to make it look too clean, because I'm trying to represent what's actually on the letter. And it's got a variant. There's the month European or month Roman here. You've got two variants here. From Tanta to Cairo and arriving the same day, this one here. So I'll need to modify that scan, because I've got a nice one with a much better clear, because this is new. Suez purely type exclusive this route. You cannot find any type like this from it. Stationary postcard made from Cairo to Japan via the Suez Ambulant TPO hand stamp on 26th of March 1902. It's transit in Hong Kong, where it's cancelled, and Japanese arrival and prepaid transit time is 28 days. Quite a nice, I quite like this cover. But in this one, I've just found a new copy, which I need to add to the presentation, which is Ashghalat Sayra, means working transit or ambulant TPOs. And you can see it's very difficult to see here also. But I said I found a new one finally. And again, this is from Port Said arriving to Colombo and Ceylon, illustrating the single transit TPOs via Suez, transit time 12 days, and franked with 2 De La Rue stamps worth 4 mils, which is the correct overseas postcard rate, and would go through the Port Said line and then transfer to the Suez Port Said one. More Suez ones here. And postcard from Marseille to Suez, illustrating single transit TPO. And now, if you look here, between the end of the 1800s and the early 1900s, there's been a gradual transition from these markings, which is a T followed by Roman numbers, and sometimes just Roman numbers in the traveling post offices, to actual proper train numbers. And we know there have been train numbers from the very beginning, because I actually saw them. If you go to the railway museum next to Bab al-Hadid railway station, the main railway station, they've got all the books. They will not let you copy them, but they've got them all, train timetables, and they've all got numbers. I found one finally, which is 1904 one, which tells you there are train numbers throughout. And this is another Suez Canal one, ongoing postcard to Shanghai. And this is an incoming one mailed from Paris. So it's not just going out of Egypt. This is an incoming one from Paris to Suez, with Alexandria transit one here. And I'm sorry, the stamp has been removed. And this one is a nice one because it's got the star and crescent. Now this one is a bit smudged. It may or may not be a forgery, but this one is definitely genuine. The lower one here, very clear one. It's a 5 mil postcard mailed from Zazi in the east of the Delta. My mother-in-law comes from Zazi to Suez, arriving on the same day, illustrating the star and crescent traveling post office ones. And this one from Port Said to Bombay. I like this one because it's I looked carefully at the train numbers here because it got T2 numbers. This is a postcard mailed from Saint-Germain in France, 1909, via the Suez Canal, Suez TPO. So presumably it went from Paris, went to Port Said, down the Suez Canal, and reaches Suez. And so it arrived from Port Tawfiq, which is the maritime port for Suez. And I look at the map here. This is Port Tawfiq itself, which is the port for the Suez city itself. And we know that because T2 train is the local Suez line from Port Tawfiq to Suez. So that's the T2 train. Goes all the way. And this is a really old vintage map that I scanned. And this is an
Here's
undocumented.
T3.
Beg your pardon?
So here's T3.
No, this is T2.
No, that one is, but the next one is T3.
And this is T3, yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
And this is a postcard to Hotel Bel Air at Suez. And I've got a picture of the Hotel Bel Air of Suez here. Mike, I'm sure you know that one because you're the hotel expert.
I do.
By a single transit TPO to Suez, dated 1908. There's no stamp there. It doesn't look like somebody removed the stamp, but there isn't any stamps there I can see on both sides. And transit time unknown. The T3, which is the local Suez, is the same line, but it departs the main Suez station at Arabin and stops at Rue Courmar and terminates at Port Tawfiq. So it's an odd number. Train T2 is an even number. In all Egyptian timetables, without exception, odd numbers in one direction, even numbers are in the opposite direction. So it's very
So
important.
it's the same line, but going the other way.
Correct. And there's a nice picture here of Colmar Street Station in Suez. So this one now we go to Port Tawfiq, single transit TPO. And this is a letter made on 1930 from Giza to Suez, arriving same day, versus 3 TPO routes. This is a nice one, including a single transit Port Tawfiq. So TPO, so it goes from Giza to Suez. So TPO is from Fayoum, Cairo, and there it is here. And the reason you've got Giza, because Fayoum to Cairo stops at Giza to reach Cairo. So the TPO is from Fayoum to Cairo. It doesn't mean it has to start at Fayoum. It can be taken at any station between Fayoum and Cairo. And so it's picked up at Giza. So the postcard is cancelled at Port. I'll come back to them. And then the second TPO is from Banha to Ismailia. So that's moving from just north of Cairo, which is Banha,
Out to the east.
east all the way to Ismailia, and then goes south to Port Tawfiq, which is the final destination. Because it's actually, if you look at the letter, the address here, it's, I can't, it's actually, this is just to Suez, I do beg your pardon. This is just addressed to Suez, or Minha ila al-Shat, to Suez and to the beach, or to the seaside, which means Port Tawfiq in real terms. It makes sense. And this is another one here for Port Tawfiq, which is again, it's got a different train number, T193 here. Postcard cancelled at 7 p.m. at Port Said, transferred to the Port Said Ismailia train, assumed T94, and next transferred to train 193, which departs Ismailia, arriving to Port Tawfiq. So this is essentially from Ismailia to Port Tawfiq. More to Port Tawfiq here, and again, it tells you from Port Said, Ismailia, Port Tawfiq. You can see that, just a quick diagram there. And again, the train number here is 103 or 193, and it tells you the local train, again, 193, local train again from Rokur Marin station, departing that and arriving Port Tawfiq 5 minutes later. But it needed a stop. It took 5 whole minutes. And finally, this is my last acquisition, which I was looking for a long time, and finally got a nice cancellation. It's from the Mansoura one, which is quite a real rare one. It's very difficult to find. And it's letter post from a place called Hihia to Cairo. And with the same day city Mansoura cancellation and transit Mansoura cancellation. You can see here as the primary cancellation. We've got Mansoura Safariyat, which Mansoura travel, T4, presumably T4 travel. And it's posted 9 to 10 p.m. We can see it here. And then train 203 departs here, arriving Mansoura 10:15 and cancelled 11:30. So this is quite an unusual one, because there's here. That's the branch of the Nile here, the eastern branch of the Nile. So Cairo's here, and Domyat will be there. So, and Mansoura is here. So it went to Hehia. It went north to Mansoura, and then south to Cairo. But there's a shorter route on the same train line taking to Cairo, which it can go straight on. The only possible suggestion, train 203 arrived here first. So I said the early bird catches the worm, but it's interesting. Sometimes when you look at the traveling post office and you look at the train numbers, you start scratching your head. Why the hell is it going in that direction first? There might have been a problem with the train. There might have been a delay. The train has broken down. Something went wrong, and then said, no, put them on that train quicker. And that's all I've got to say for now. Thank you very much.